What is up, everybody? This week, I am joined by Easton to cover the matchup between Little Caesars Pizza and Syracuse Auroras. Easton, how we doing?
Doing good, doing good. How about you, Chiang?
I'm doing pretty good. Really excited to see this matchup. I saw a lot of people memeing on Chris about it in the Gen chat after it happened, so really curious to see how this one does play out and everything like that.
Well, he deserves to be clowned on for all the shit he's been talking.
I mean, very fair, very fair. So we're just gonna go ahead here and jump into our team previews. On the top, we got the team of Little Caesars Pizza, aka Fenbach, and on the bottom side is Syracuse Auroras, aka Chris. So looking at these two teams, really starting with like Fenbach, what's really sticking out to you in this matchup in particular?
Uh, actually quite think that Snow is pretty good in this matchup. Um, I don't think Chris has amazing options to get rid of weather. He notably doesn't have a prankster Pokemon, so he just has to use the natural speed that his team has. One of which is Noivern, who doesn't want to play in hail, or in snow, I should say. He does have some reasonable options that could potentially remove the weather, but I do definitely think that's strong. Ice type stab is also not bad against Chris's team. He does have some very good resistances in Arcanine and Rotom Wash for ice moves, but the rest of the team is not looking too hot, and you can deal with those two, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Snow could also be a little risky to bring into Chris just because he does have that Iron Bundle sitting there who can thrive in that if it really does want to. But, like, I think for, like, a Snow Core, I think, like you said, I think Fenbox is just a whole lot better because you got the Ninetales, you got Titan, even Slowking Galar kind of does pretty well in it for the most part and can also set it if it really wanted to, if you wanted to bring something different on the Ninetales Alola, but, like, some other interesting Pokemon on Chris's team, like that I'm looking at in this matchup in particular, is like Superior. If he wants to bring that, it could be good like in particular against maybe just like Lando, but like the contrary, Stellar Terra and then Leaf Storm does kind of go crazy in general, but could also be a risky bring if Little Caesars Pizza does decide to go with that Snow Core, because then it can just kind of be stuck there doing nothing for the most part. But looking at Fenbach's team, you got a lot of good and interesting choices here that you could go with because, like, you just have some pretty good speed already. It's not the best. It's like a weird speed tier, but like you have a Villion who can set up that Tailwind for you and has Friend Guard. You also have like things that do well with it, like Dragonite, Landorus, Incarnate, and like even Goldango in Tailwind kind of just goes crazy and does what they want to do, what you expect them to do in almost every matchup. But I like Vivillon. Everybody knows that I love this Pokemon. I ran it a few seasons back. I think this Pokemon's really good and is like a really good support option because you can run the Friend Guard or you can even do fun stuff with like Compound Eyes, Hurricane, Sleep Powder. But it could be interesting to see what the six for each of these guys are, just looking at all the options that they do have at their disposal.
Also notable here is, although I do agree that Villion would be a decent bring with Tailwind here, have to remember the Chris's team is extremely fast without Tailwind. He has seven Pokemon above 105 base speed on his team, and that outspeeds the entirety of Fenbach's team outside of I think there were only a couple of options that were even in the hundreds, right? Only Ninetales Alola that hits 109, and everything else is below 105. So the speed control here is going to be huge. Fenbach has to figure out a way to deal with that. Obviously, he has the priority off of Dragonite, and he has multiple reasonable fake out users out of Sableye and Hitmontop. But there are obviously clear counters on how to deal with that. So I'd be interested to know what kind of sets that Fenbach brings here, because honestly, Trick Room doesn't even look bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like Fenbach can just go the opposite option of just setting up Trick Room with like Slow King and then just play for your slower natural speed against Chris's fast speed. But like Dusclops can be in the back with that Trick Room. I also believe Espeon learns Trick Room. Almost every Psychic type does. So, like, he has two options to counter the Trick Room if, like, he really needs to. And I wouldn't
The
be...
problem is, sorry, Dusclops gets Imprison Trick Room also.
Yeah.
So that's the real counter if he's expecting it. And he just brings a 5-core with the Dusclops on the side just as a in case of break the glass kind of thing.
Yeah, and speaking of speed tiers, let's just go and look at these, like, in particular. Like you said, like, Iron Bundle, Tapu Koko, Noivern, Sneasel. Like, oh, basically, Chris has, I think, 6 Pokemon that just naturally, innately outspeed without, like, accounting for plus speed natures at max speed. Chris has 6 Pokemon that outspeeds all of Fenbach's team. So Fenbach has to do a really good job of not only positioning, but, like, using his slightly bulkier team for the most part to be able to get in good positions to be able to win this matchup if Chris isn't just absolutely running it over with the pure speed advantage that he does have and some scary special attackers on his team. And, the Iron Bundle, even the Espeon has a really nice special attack stat, but also just, like, he also has the physical threats of Sneasel or Tapu Koko if you want to run physical Koko as well. So there's a lot to have to think about going into prep here. Even the Iron Treads and Arcanine could be there. It's a lot of prep that Fenbach has to come ready with just because of the speed tier breakdown, just looking at the two teams in comparison.
Definitely agree with that. One last note I'm going to make on Fenbach's team is Goldengo plays a very important resistance in this matchup. He notably does not have another steel Pokemon, so despite Goldengo typically being a special attacking threat, its natural resistances are going to be really important in dealing with some of the threats that Chris can bring out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what 6 Pokemon come for each of these guys, and then what sets we're running on each one. So let's just go ahead and hop into game number 1 here. Just starting off, looking at the 6 Pokemon brought by each trainer here, is this kind of what you expected to see, or is anything sticking out to you as an interesting take?
I mean, I think both teams have kind of brought at least a surprising thing here. On Fenbach's side, he did bring the Cetitan without the Ninetales, but he did bring Snow in the form of potentially Slowking Galar, if that's what the goal with that setup is, which means he could be looking at a Trick Room angle. And Chris actually has the Dusclops in the back, so he does have, if he did bring it, the Imprisoned Trick Room to block that off entirely. So as far as I see it, I don't know what Fenbach's lead is in this matchup. I imagine it has to be Hitmontop plus something because you don't have anything that can right now deal with the speed.
Yeah, I mean, I was also going to mention, like, no Ninetales Alola to just have that innate snow setup, so I assume that the Slowking does have that chilly reception just to be able to set it up and kind of get a free pivot switch into whatever you do want. I also think Rotom Mow is a nice bring into this because it can answer into both the Iron Bundle, the Rotom Wash, and even the Noivern if Chris does bring that out, being that Grass Electric type. But now, looking more specifically into Terra type breakdowns, is this kind of what you expected to see on most of these Pokemon, or are you kind of taken off guard by some of these ones?
I don't think there's anything super surprising. Terra Ghost on Iron Bundle and on Sneasler is pretty normal against a fake out Pokemon like Hitmontop. Terra Ground on Koko is interesting. I guess it's there to help Koko beat Slowking. I'm really not sure. And then on Fenbach's side, everything seems about normal, but Terra Electric on Rotom is odd. Is he running potentially a Specs variant of Rotom and he just wants the extra power? And Slowking's also is still Psychic, so I don't know if those were even touched.
Yeah, I also think the Terra Dragon Landorus is interesting, knowing that Chris does have that Tapu Koko and also the Iron Bundle who can still hit it for that super effective damage, and the Noivern was also brought, so I wouldn't expect to see Landorus Terra so much in this matchup if Fenbach does bring it. I just think it was a weird choice to go for in preparation for this specific matchup.
Yeah, especially into Snow, right? he has 2 guaranteed ice types, and you're bringing Terra Dragon. That's a very odd choice for me. One other point I'm going to make here is I am an enjoyer of the Frisk ability, so I hope Chris leads Frisk Noivern for information fishing. It's also, I don't even think Noivern is bad in this matchup. I guess it depends on the set, though.
Yeah, alright, so let's just go ahead and jump into game number 1 here.
The Dusclops lead is interesting.
Okay, so we got Dusclops bundle with Slow King Landorus on the opposite side. Okay, Helping Hand Protect. That was, okay, good read by Fenbach there. And that Slow King damage is kind of crazy, actually.
Iron Bundle is naturally, like, not bulky at all, though, so that's reasonable.
I think...
He does get the Trick Room up, though, so is it not Imprisoned Trick Room Dusclops, then?
Yeah, I maybe wasn't expected, but the burn onto Titan means it's kind of useless in this matchup now. I also think the flip turn on Bundle is interesting, but it helps with free positioning. But now you're kind of stuck in a bad spot as Chris. Okay, Rotom Mo, Protect. Dusclop lives on 7%. Okay, burn on Rotom Mo, but Rotom Mo is a special attacker, so it's not really going to care all too much about that one.
Does this Dusclops also not have Pain Split? I feel like that would have just kept it on the field a lot longer.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's got Willow and Helping Hand. If it did bring that Imprisoned Trick Room, that means it does not have Pain Split, but now Chris is in a really bad spot. Do
you mind pausing here?
Yeah, no problem.
So, very interesting turn that we just saw here. This is Screens Coco to match potentially the Ninetales screens on the opposing team. I imagine Screens Coco was not in the prep for Fenbach, so he probably can't remove the screens. I'm actually not sure if Coco gets both Reflect and Light Screen, but it's only shown one move so far. So this is very interesting to know for the next game. And to your point also, burning Rotom-Mow meant nothing. I feel like that was a wasted turn from Dusclops. I know he kind of wants the Dusclops off the field, but like, what's the moveset? It's got to have a better option than trying to burn a special attacker.
Yeah, and I mean, with the way it's set up right now, Chris is in a pretty bad spot just because he's in Trick Room again. Coco's on the field, Rotom Wash is on the field. Rotom Wash is fine in Trick Room, but you're also down to your last 2 Pokemon. Fenbach still has the Landorus in the back as a potential win con in the end game, so this is looking like a pretty rough game number 1 here for Chris. I don't like Screens Coco personally. I feel like this thing should just be literally clicking an attacking move anytime it does have the chance for the most part, and it kind of just feels like has 1, potentially 2 useless moves if it does also learn the Reflect.
See, I'm actually a Screens Coco enjoyer. I don't mind it with how fast Coco is. If you're running Light Clay with both screens and you're running like Nature's Madness plus an electric move, I don't hate the set. But your team has to be built to otherwise do damage, and you brought Screens Coco in the same match as Dusclops, which is dead weight, complete dead weight, if it's not running Imprisoned Trick Room against a Trick Room team. So you're relying on Rotom Wash, which is typically a glue Pokemon, not a special attacking threat, and Bundle, which you've already lost, right? Like, where's the damage coming from to finish this game out? He can hope that the bulk of his team with screens can keep himself in the game, but again, Landorus is in the back, and it will it will outspeed Coco in Trick Room once it's put on the field whenever it gets the chance.
Yeah, and I mean, another big thing is, like, Fenbach still has Terra to his access, while Chris used the Terra on Bundle with Terra Blast, and it didn't even kill the Slow King that was at 73%, so it's pretty rough here. And I also like that Fenbach, if he is running that Chilly Reception, didn't show it as soon as the Titan got burned, because he knew it was going to basically do no damage for the rest of this match, and kind of just did there to do a little bit of chip to kind of set him up for this late game. But let's see how the rest of this match does end up playing out.
Mm-hmm. Another Helping Hand Pokemon. Coco narrowly lives the Sludge Bomb, and it does get the KO on Slowking.
Citrus
Interesting.
Rotom Mo is pretty big. It's Life
I,
Orb.
it's Life Orb screens Coco. I'm not a fan of that.
See, this is where the Terra Dragon is fine in this matchup, when there's no threat to it anymore, and yeah, it's just a cleanup easy there for the side of Fenbach in game number 1. So
Hmm. It was just the second Trick Room. Chris played well enough to get out of the first Trick Room, but still hadn't been able to get the Slowking Galar off the field, and as a result, he's still in the back seat.
yeah, I mean, it was a tough position once that first trick room was up, but like Chris, like you said, played it well to get out of it, but then just was not able to get the issue off the field that was the slow King Galar in this matchup, and the second one coming up just kind of meant it was over for the side of Chris, and like you said, Life Orb Screen Coco is not the set that I was expecting to see in this matchup.
No, no, no. If you're running Coco, it's gotta be specific to whatever you're planning for it to do. If it's an attacker, you put Life Orb on it. If it's the support variant, you need to have defensive, and it needs to be Light Clay, and it needs to have both screens and Nature's Madness. It can't be Life Orb T-Bolt Coco with screens for no reason.
Yeah, so now looking forward to match number 2, game number 2, what changes do you want to see from like the side of Chris to be able to get back in this one? And like, do you think Fenbach's gonna switch anything up or kind of just stick with the game plan he had coming into it?
I would expect Fenbach to stick to the game plan. He's obviously not brought Goldango into this matchup for a reason, and if he needs to bring it in game 3 and hide the set, I think that's kind of a nice idea to do. On Chris's side, I don't want to see Dusclops come. We know it's not the Trick Room in Prison variant, or if it is, he didn't show it in the last game, and it's just dead weight on the team. I want to see a Noivern lead. Hopefully it has Frisk, so you can get some information that you might not already have, and try and put some pressure on him on turn 1. Uh, but I guess the other alternative option is to run Coco Sneasler and see if that hyper aggressive lead can beat the Trick Room, because I don't think he has taunt on anything. I imagine he can't stop Trick Room if he can't kill the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fenbach, if he's expecting that like aggressive lead of like Coco Sneasler, you could like throw out Hitmontop there on turn 1 to like kind of lower the threat of the Sneasler, but then like you're in a dangerous spot if there's like the play rough or any fairy type move on top of Coco to potentially lose that Pokemon on turn 1 and then just be down him on for the rest of the match.
Yeah, and since we know Sneasler and Iron Bundle are both Terra Ghost, I think Hitmontop has a lot less value in this matchup unless you're specifically leading Hitmontop Slowking and trying to go for Trick Room and just using the fake out on the Pokemon you know doesn't have Terra Ghost.
Yeah, we'll have to see what is changed on both sides or if anything has changed at all. And like Chris decides it was just like a gameplay thing and brings the same 4 Mons. But let's hop into game number 2 and see if anything has changed for this matchup. All right, so game number 2. Let's see if any leads are different.
He's leading the Dusclops that I didn't want to see.
Oh, but the Goldango
Have
comes.
wrong Dusclops set. GG said in chat. But it's not. The movie's missing isn't even the. Okay. It is Imprisoned Trick Room. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm very much not a fan of this Dusclops.
yeah, it's Imprison, Trick Room, Helping Hand, Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, it's kind of dead weight if it's on the field by itself, but another nice protect there by Fenbach and then just targeting down the Iron Bundle.
Helping Hand flip turn.
Yeah,
I hate it.
this Dusclops is literally just dead weight in this matchup. It does absolutely nothing, really.
Why is Landorus protecting on this turn?
Maybe Fear of Hydro Pump?
Is he
that's my only
physical
thought.
Lando maybe?
Yeah, did he do what I did and brought physical Lando?
Oh yeah, he did Terra Electric the Rotom, so he wasn't able to Terra Dragon the Lando that last turn. Okay. I
And
find it funny that Dusclops is just sitting here with the Slowking on the field, and neither of them are doing anything because Slowking King keeps hitting into protect.
And then yeah, okay, so now this Dusclops just continues to sit here and do nothing. I mean, it burned the Rotom Mo again. That's something.
It's doing some chip damage, sure, but now Landorus comes back out. He's Will-O-Wisping the Slowking.
And the Dazzling Gleam does nothing. Nasty plot Landorus?
And that is rough. Iron Bundle does outspeed Landorus here, but he can just protect
Yep.
and target down with Slowking
Slowking's
unless
dead though.
unless it dies. But look here, he can still only target one thing with Iron Bundle. He takes Landorus out, Rotom kills Iron Bundle, and then Rotom kills Dusclops.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just a little rough there. I mean, we both were not fans of the set on the Dusclops. You can see Chris in chat said had no pain split. So a little rough. I think Fenbach actually played that really well with the turn where he volt switched out the Rotom Mo to kind of set himself up for the end game, knowing that if Rotom went down on that turn, it would have been difficult because then Iron Bundle outspeeds everything and kind of just sweeps from that point. So able to preserve that Mon and willing to sack something for the end game was a really smart move by him.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think game two was weird with both Dusclops and Slowking just sitting there for like 10 turns, either doing nothing or clicking moves into protect constantly. Um, but overall, I definitely think Fenbach deserved the win in this match. He definitely played around the strengths of his team, understanding that his team underspeeds Chris's team by naturally by quite a bit and bringing the counter trick room. Obviously, in game one, the trick room was a lot more valuable because it didn't even pop up in game two, because of the imprison. But the Dusclops was just complete dead weight without pain split. I honestly think that yeah, Helping Hand was probably the right choice to take off that move set, but I mean Dusclops is still not doing anything.
Yeah, and I mean, especially into the Pokemon that Fenbach brought, like the Will-O-Wisp only really has an effect onto the Cetitan because everything else and him on top, everything else is a special attacker on the side of Fenbach. So, like, I mean, I can see the world where you want to bring the Will-O-Wisp, but, like, I think if you had Pain Split, it would have been a lot better because then Dusclops can actually be really annoying in that matchup because it feels like you can never take that Pokemon off the field unless you target it down, which leaves the rest of Chris's team to kind of just run through what Fenbach has. But like, not having Pain Split is a big deal. I also think I agree. I would have liked to see Frisk Noivern, especially in game number 1, just to get that scouting information for free. But I think a lot of stuff could have been done differently on Chris's side. I think some of the sets were definitely questionable, especially the Tapu Koko one.
If Dusclops is being brought with Will-O-Wisp specifically to burn Dragonite, which Fenbach did not bring in this matchup, then I kind of get it. But he also only has 3 real physical attacking threats where his team is mostly special. I feel like Dusclops could have had Nightshade or something to make it like not as passive as it was after imprisoning, and it could have sat there, took some hits, and dished out 50 power Nightshades and chip things down for Coco to finish them off, right? Um, I think the game plan with that in mind would have been a lot better than the set that we got today.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also, like you said, the Dragonite didn't come. I think that's really smart by Fenbach because Tapu Koko and Iron Bundle are such threats on the side of Chris's team. Just being like, I don't need it for this matchup is very smart to do just because you do have other things that can answer into Chris's team. And I think Fenbach did a really good job in prep for this match in particular. Like, we were questioning the Electric Terra on the Rotom Mo. It seemed to pay off for the most part, just because when it did get hit by that freeze dry by under Iron Bundle, it just didn't go down and then was able to be there in the late game for game number 2. So I think Fenbach, really played his team well and had a really strong prep coming into this matchup.
I definitely agree with that. I would also like to mention and bring up again this Tapu Koko. If you're gonna bring Tapu Koko Sneasler to a game set and you don't bring the Tapu Koko Sneasler to any of the games, I'm just wondering what was the point of prepping the Sneasler? Was the Sneasler a counter prep for one of Fenbach's like top Pokemon that didn't come, like Dragonite? I just don't understand what the game plan is to not even attempt to bring it.
Yeah, and I mean, even if Sneasler does have Fake Out, I mean, the Dragonite can run Inner Focus and then just not care about it as well. So
Hmm.
definitely interesting. I also think Dire Claw is such an overpowered move. I really would like to see the Sneasler in any of these matchups because, like, even into the Rotom Mo before Terra's, that Dire Claw can potentially one shot it depending on how both of these mons are trained for the matchup. So I agree. I think Sneasler sitting at home kind of feels bad when I think it could have done a lot of work in this matchup.
I also think the screens on Coco is just wasted. I'm a fan of the set. I feel like the screens didn't play much of a part. It kept Dusclops on the field a little longer, but Dusclops doesn't need the bulk help. Um, it it didn't do anything for the frail Noivern or the frail Sneasler, which didn't come to any matches. And Iron Bundle took psychics to the face from Slowking Galar in both games without screens, so it was basically out of commission as soon as it got on the field.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw how it played out. It was not ideal for Chris this week. I think he's got to go back to the drawing board with the prep a little bit. Maybe not listen to the voices in his head for some of these Pokemon's movesets and item choices. But like I said, man, overall Fenbach played really good. Another rookie showing some pretty strong showings early in the season, despite this being only his first win. I think he played really well against Chris, who has been doing pretty good so far in his time in PDL.
Hmm. Definitely very interested to see what will go on for the rest of the season. I also want to make a shout out. I think Chris played part of game one extremely well getting out of the first trick room. He just couldn't prevent the second trick room.
Yeah, and we saw how that ended up happening. But overall, I think both players played well for the most part. Especially Chris at points in that game number one was looking pretty good, but then that second trick room just cost him that first game where I think he had the option to be able to come back from it. But overall, shout out to both trainers playing really well, and I hope that everybody enjoyed this coverage of this matchup of Little Caesars Pizza and Syracuse Auroras, brought to you by Chong and Easton.